What was it like transitioning from a high school, community college, or a smaller school to a much larger university?
It was definitely different. At Green River, we were a small community. At UW, it's 65,000 strong. And when you get into your zone, I'm across from main campus down on Portage Bay with the fisheries buildings. So we're further isolated. It was very difficult to create community. LSAMP bridged that gap quickly. You're there with people who share a lot of your same intersections, and it makes it scales the university so that you can actually access the amazing amount of resources, because it's too many to try to navigate and choose the ones that work best for you. So yes, it is overwhelming. We're all aware. Just come find us. We'll help.
Like Chris just said, this school is way too big to kind of figure things out on your own. I think something I wish I had done when I first got here is to like find a mentor and have them like take me under their wing from the jump, because that's something that I did maybe a year after my first year. And so I think that would have helped a lot in navigating the school. And another important thing is, when it comes to that kind of plays into that, when it comes to going to a big school, is learning how to advocate for yourself. Because like when you're in a small community, you kind of by nature have people that are looking out for you and have your back, because it's just so small and you see them every day. But when you get to a big place like this and you're just like, you know, a little fish swimming with the sharks, there's just so much going on that people sometimes don't pay attention to how you might be feeling or what you might be going through. And it's really unfortunate to say, but that really means that you have to learn how to reach out when you need help, because if you don't, things can get bad.
The biggest thing for me was like initially coming to a bigger school. I came from out of state, so just navigating a new environment, but just echoing once again that once you find your community and you have people that you know will look out for you, and just being able to figure it out on your own, but also having some guidance was the big key to my transition.
So my high school was actually a class. We ended up with a class of 130 graduating. It was a very small graduating class. And then going to UW with tens of thousands of students was definitely not only, you know, a size population shock, but definitely a culture shock for me. And it just kind of felt, I remember the first day was very overwhelming, because like Isaiah was saying, it feels like nobody cares about you, even though they're not doing it intentionally. It's very easy to just feel eaten up and like your life doesn't matter. So in order to do well in school, you need to prioritize like making your own small community as well.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's very important for people to hear. Find community, and it doesn't stop with education. Work the same way. Finding that community is very important. For those who transferred, when did you begin your transfer applications, and was that enough time or not? And are there any lessons learned that you'd like to pass on to the students that we have on the call today?
For myself, I've actually been to community college 3 times at this point. Right in running start, I went to Bellevue College, then I went to South Seattle to get a trade degree, and then I went back to school and I went to the Cascadia College. So all through those times, I was very afraid of even trying to apply to university, and I finally was going for it. So I was very focused this time, and I worked with a academic advisor constantly. I saw him every quarter. Am I doing this right? Am I taking the right classes? Are we on the right track? And even with being very diligent, trying to keep track of exactly when I would need to write an essay, I didn't know that different universities have different times that they accept applications. So for one of my applications, I turned it in like very early, and the other one I turned in the day before it was due. When I had to pay all these special fees to get my transcript sent early. So one I was very early for, and one I was definitely not early for. So lessons learned on that would be to not have any assumptions, and to have, because when I realized my mistake, I made a calendar to say exactly, write this part of the essay on this day. You're not going to have time this week because you have a lot of finals. So you're going to need to write that on the weekend. and to portion out the time, because it's really overwhelming to have these applications. It just seems like so much. But if you take little, like small sizes of it, it's a lot easier to do. So read everything on the website would be my.
So I just want to echo, it's really important to read the application and to like make sure that you're not just following the steps. Like, you know, sometimes you think that it's really obvious what you're doing, but like one little mistake can make or break. And so I can tell you, I'm not always proud of this story, but now I kind of embrace it because it shows my perseverance. But I actually was denied acceptance to UW, and I got in based on an appeal process. And it turned out that the reason why my application was denied was because I inadvertently checked the wrong quarter of entrance. I said, well, I wanted to major in this particular major that you're supposed to apply in winter quarter, but I was applying in autumn. And so I was like, no, but I'm applying in autumn because I know I need a prerequisite first for the major. And they're like, well, you should have put that in there. And so just like really paying attention, like thinking about, okay, what is my plan when I go to this college? What is their expectations? What are they specifically looking for? Because, you know, a university is not going to take someone who puts on their application, well, you know, I don't know what I want to do. Like, even if you don't know, that's completely okay. But kind of find something that shows them that when you get to the university, you're going to be successful and that you do have focus, so that you don't, like, you know, for me, like being more explicit about what my autumn quarter plan was would have made the difference, and I wouldn't have had to go through the initial trauma. Oh my God, I didn't get into like the having to write a whole like appeal letter about like how, you know, this doesn't reflect on me as a student that I overlooked this little detail. I'm very detail oriented, I promise, right? Like, so, you know, just like that's something to think about. So like, look, you know, like for example, if you're going to the University of Washington, look at the course catalog, look at the different departments, like look at the UW Department of Biology, Department of Anthropology, whatever Department of Engineering that you want to look, and look at the things that they're looking for and they expect their students to have in place. And then make sure that everything you're doing on your application aligns with that.
I'd actually like to add, based on what Annette was saying, was also be sure that you understand applying for a major and applying for the university can be different. So one of the universities I applied for didn't have that process. This one it did. So I didn't apply for my chemistry major in time. And I could have been a chemistry major when I started because I worked really hard to get the prereqs. And then I had to start it late because I just didn't understand when I was supposed to turn in an essay for it. So I had this essay completely written and just had to wait a few months to do it again. So there's a lot of little details, and that's where it's really helpful to talk to someone else about it because it's hard to find that all out on your own.
Would you share your perspective on the most challenging parts of transferring? And maybe we covered this a bit in some of the comments already, but if anybody wants to add to it, what was expected and what was unexpected and what was tough about it?
Okay, I have to jump on this one because my first quarter at UW, I almost cried every single day. I thought I have always worked 2 full-time jobs, always. And I assumed that because I was down to a part-time job and a full-time course load, that I could hang with my courses in a brand new environment. And my GPA was terrible. I hated my workload. I didn't understand how to manage it. And here I was, like, I worked my entire way through my first 2 years in community college. I'm fine. I can do this. No, you cannot. So when your directors and your advisors and the people who really have your best interest at heart tell you to slow down, do less, let's work a different plan, they mean it. The rigor is different. What you have to do is different. And what you have to do to succeed at school is so much more than just class and just homework. You can't treat it like a job. You can't put it down. You can't pick it up. Like, it's not the way that it works. So maybe just listen to the people who told you it was going to be harder, because it really is. And it would be nice to spend that first quarter, like, not on the verge of like tears and imposter syndrome and what have I done to myself. Yes, I love it now. It was hard then.
So I transferred, during the pandemic. So I was expecting to go to a university for the first time. And, I had always heard it would be really hard, but then I thought, well, okay, it's going to be at home, so it'll be a little easier. And if anything, it was harder probably than what I was expecting. So then you're going through what I went through, what Chris was too, upset, wondering why I can't be working. I can't have this huge course load. I took calculus 2 and like physics 3 at the same time. No, it's calculus 3, physics 3, and just a full load. And I was just in tears with why I couldn't get it. And you feel very alone in this little bubble. So also think about that with how things are changing, whether you are in person or not in person, it's a little bit hard to tell right now. There's just going to be even more reasons to have those small community ties so that you don't have to feel so alone with it, because that helped once I could connect with other people.
Now getting on more into the LSAMP, kind of the technical conferences, internships, and any study abroad you've done. Could you describe your experiences with that for us?
I'll hit on conferences because I've been to a couple, whether I was just attending, a presenter, or a volunteer. Usually these conferences are going to be like 2 to 3 days filled with workshops and presentations of cutting edge research from students and experts like all over the nation. So I think conferences are really important because it's an opportunity for you to network. You're going to be meeting a lot of people in the field that you're interested in, and they're going to be interested in what you're doing too. So you can, spread your knowledge and you can gain knowledge and exchange contact information. And a lot of times you can get job offers on the spot just based on the research that you're interested in. And it's also an opportunity to learn, right? Again, there's going to be a lot of people doing really exciting research. And you get to go to a new place and present your research. It's a really exciting feeling. And a lot of the times these conferences are completely free and paid by the program that you're going with. Like, for example, I've went to Idaho and Indiana through LSAMP just because I was interested in research or presenting research. They paid it for in full. So price should not be a concern when it comes to conferences.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, I'm all a conference person, and I too received my job offer through a conference. So I can't pump those enough. And then the energy coming out of those things. I was part of the NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers, completely different when you start seeing a whole thousands of people sharing similar cultural backgrounds in the same space, going for the same types of degrees. So, but this is not about me. Are there any other students from University of Washington who would like to share their experiences?
I can talk about my study abroad experience. Nahom went on it as well in Australia. It was this is not, I don't know if this is common for all students, but for me, it was very much a life-changing experience studying abroad. And it was completely free as well. Like, I got a scholarship, and then LSAMP gave me a scholarship. And something I was super worried about was like, I'm not going to be able to go to Australia. That's going to cost way too much money. But financial aid, if you get it at your community college or whatever from FAFSA, most of it is going to carry over to studying abroad as well. And so that shouldn't be a huge concern when it comes to studying abroad. And then on top of all of that, LSAMP, when I went, gave all of the LSAMP students a $1,000 stipend for the research that we were doing. So we were there for free, and then we got paid for going to Australia is pretty much how it worked. So, I mean, that on top of all the, really cool cultural things you get to do, we learned about the indigenous people of Australia. I was doing research in oceanography, and that was how I got interested in oceanography, and was like, actually aerospace, it's cool, but I think my thing is actually oceanography. Like, it just on a lot of different fronts, life-changing for me. And I've made some of my closest friends from that study abroad program, really. I don't think I can talk it up enough, especially considering that oftentimes you can essentially get it fully funded.
That's what I'm talking about. Experience it, the opportunity is there. It's there for you all. I just so want you to know it's your choice whether or not you want to attend, but don't make a decision thinking that it's not for you. So we're telling you these experiences are here, and we want you to grab and hold on to them and be like, no, we're going to go. So I don't know, I can't remember all the places Courtney said, but that's for you all in our community colleges now as you transfer over to UW. So just remember, like Courtney, remember when you said this is where we're going to go. So
I can talk about internships briefly. So right now I'm involved in an internship with the National Marine Fisheries Service, and it's actually an internship through my capstone. So it's kind of a unique experience in that it's like a guided internship. So I have a lot of support mechanisms, thankfully. So I have like my professors and all of my advisors who are able to provide that type of support. And initially I was kind of hesitant about internships and starting that, and it's all very like nerve-wracking, applying yourself, and maybe you'll get accepted to an internship, or maybe you won't. And but I think the whole process of applying and going through the internship, working with people that you have never met before and building like professional relationships, I think is extremely valuable. And if you are doing an internship, maybe outside of the university, so it's not very connected to something like the University of Washington, I would definitely recommend still finding like those mentors that Isaiah mentioned, because they can really provide you with great advice on crafting like your initial email, or how to maintain professionalism throughout the internship process, or how to seek feedback on your work. And so that's my current experience with internships, and I would just highly recommend them to anyone who's wanting to seek that professional experience maybe before actually getting involved in a full-time or even part-time career, and to try and hone that internship to your interests, because then you can put that on your resume, or you can just talk about it in future applications. And either way, there will be learning experiences from that.
what is your advice for getting involved with research?
So my first piece of advice is talk to your professors, talk to your classmates, talk to anybody that will listen and tell them you want to research. The lab that I left to come do this Zoom is a professor that I had in a class. I waited until it was the end of Zoom. We were early. And I asked her, how do I get involved in this? It's an infectious disease and aquatic life. How do I get involved in this? I really like it. So that was, I don't know, maybe March or April. He emailed me in August, was like, hey, are you still interested in doing this? My lab is going to run one more experiment. Dr. Carolyn Friedman found this disease. She's named it. She's the one that knows everything about withering syndrome. And I am learning from her, the woman who created this entire system. Well, she didn't create the disease. How to even manipulate this and make this work. Like, it's an amazing opportunity, all because I waited 5 minutes after class to talk to her about something I thought was really cool. So, I mean, shout it from the rooftops if you have to.
I think I'll add for that. There is a really great class that UW offers. And I'm hoping I'm getting this course code right. It's called Gen ST 391 or something like that, but it's essentially undergraduate research for transfer students. And it's a 2-credit course, pass, no pass. And it's an entire staff of people that are literally will talk to you about things like imposter syndrome and how to write a letter to a professor, and how to reach out to a research lab, how to search the UW database for research. So you really, if you come to the university and you really don't feel like you know how to get started or where to get started, I highly recommend that class, because I took that class my first quarter here. And I kind of like, because you have like all the prompts and you kind of have it to lean on. You can kind of like, well, I'm doing this for my class, so I'm reaching out to you for this reason. But then you can also, through that networking, find a lab that works. And I was really lucky that I happened to stumble upon a lab that literally was brand new. The PhD or the PI had just relocated from Mount Sinai here to the University of Washington and was opening a lab on neuro research, looking into the mechanisms of PTSD. And I got to experience like literally what it's like to start up a lab from scratch. So that was like super exciting. And I'm actually still with the lab. I'm actually here in the lab right now. So that's been my entire experience. And it's all thanks to that two credit course. So I highly recommend it. Look it up, do it your first quarter, get hooked up with research with the help of all those wonderful staff that work with that program.
Like Chris and Anita mentioned, it's going to be a lot about networking and who you know. If you just know the right people, they're going to be providing you those opportunities to get involved in research, whether it's going to be staying after school or just directly like emailing a professor or somebody you're interested in. And it's not necessarily like, oh, you're doing research, I want to be inside like your lab doing research with you. It's just, I have an interest in your field. Can I learn more about your field? They can talk to you about it. They can connect you with other people's, and they'll just have you in mind when opportunities arise. And I think the other biggest way of getting involved in research is just doing research programs, whether it be the study abroad me and Isaiah did, where we got to do oceanography programs, or there's this one program with the Health Science Center called the Stipends for Teaching Aspiring Researchers. It's just when you do biomedical research over the summer. It's like a 10-week internship. And, you just apply to those online. So I think those two are like the main ways of getting involved in research in a university setting.
I had a different way that I got into research, so it's kind of cool to see your other ways for it. I knew I wanted to do research this whole time, and so I went to, when we were getting orientation, I think they talked about academic success coaching, and that's a free service that is offered. So I went ahead and made an appointment with an academic success coach, and I asked him about how I could get into research because, like I said, I transferred during the pandemic. Everything was online. I didn't know if I could get research. So he gave me a lot of advice and said, find every person's lab that you're interested in, read about their lab, and send them an email. So I sent, I think, like 20 emails, and I actually got a research lab for my first quarter at UW during the pandemic for an online literature review that has now developed into that I'm going to be able to go into the lab, that I'm going to get to work on additional projects I was interested in. I got a co-patent on one of the designs that I helped engineer. And yeah, so it was just amazing. And I love research so much. It's so rewarding. So there's a lot of ways that you can get into it. So just hit it from wherever you feel you, and there's going to be just a lot of ways to get there, which is pretty cool.
I have one more potential pathway to add with research, and this is a slightly different form of research, but the UW offers in some majors an independent study course. And so you can get credit for maybe a separate research that you're doing that's related to your major. So in my experience, I'm able to look at a topic that I'm really interested in, and I had to approach a couple of professors that I've had before, and they have been very gracious to be my mentors. So they kind of oversee my research in a different capacity, but I've had been able to be kind of free in shaping how I want my research to go and what form that takes. So you can also register for a course if you want to go that pathway.
Would you tell us about the research you're engaged in?
So I'm actually involved in 2 different research projects. So one I'm doing through the Department of Anthropology, which is my own honors research project, where I'm looking into vaccine hesitancy from the standpoint of experience in a modern day pandemic. And then I'm also involved in, like I was mentioning, I'm in a neuro lab where we're looking at the underlying mechanisms of PTSD, aggression, and addiction. So it's very exciting. So I'm actually trying to build a molecular tool that will help light up cells in the brain so that we kind of are able to visualize behaviors as they happen.
I'm completing the data synthesis for my own independent research that I was able to do at Friday Harbor Labs. I've applied to go back for this summer, so let's hope that I can do that. And that's on the abiotic and biotic effects on sea urchins and that trophic relationship between bull kelp, which is what they eat, and the sea stars, which are their natural predators. So basically, what's worse, a predator or the environment trying to kill you? Super cool. Urchins get really upset, change their shape. We'll read all about it soon. I'm also in Carolyn Friedman's lab studying Withering syndrome, and I just received the marine omics internship. So I'll be studying ways that genomics, proteomics, transcriptomics work together to create a bigger puzzle about how genes evolve in response to things like climate change.
My research is slightly confidential right now since we are in patent processes, but I'm going to be presenting it soon at the Undergraduate Research Symposium live platform. So that should be good. But we basically are working on finding ways to do diagnostics for underserved populations in ways that would be easier, something they can do at home, something that is less painful. And we're working on a lot of those diagnostics, kind of a biomedical and designing our own things. So I learned about engineering, which I had never gotten to do before. I got to learn how to 3D print things. And I'm like a chemistry person. So I also got to learn some biochemistry, got to figure out what diseases, how they present differently, how you would test for it. And so it's just been really rewarding to learn so many.
I just wanted to say one thing because Danielle brought it up, which is the Undergraduate Research Symposium. It's an opportunity every year for all of us to present. You submit your abstract. My urchin one is in as well, so hopefully I will see you. But it's an opportunity to showcase what you've done all year to the entire universe. This year it's all online, so it's an even easier way to participate. And they actually coach you through the application. You have a faculty mentor that helps you put it together. It's just another piece in the research puzzle so you can get out there and build the networks.
I highly recommend for all the transfer students, with it being online, if there's no excuse to not go. So, check it out. UW Undergraduate Research Symposium. It's on May 21st. Mark your calendars. Definitely try to join because for one, you're going to get to actually see firsthand all the research that is being done and you get network. And, I think that's been a theme throughout this whole meeting here is that networking is so important. So why not start early? You can get in those, ask the students questions. How did you hook up with this lab? Find something that that's really interesting, and you can get a chance to talk to the students. See because it's always listed who the PI is. So you immediately now you got a list of PIs to contact if you see things that are interesting to you. Or the other thing that I recommend is going to UW Undergraduate Research Symposium and looking at past symposiums, because that also you can see commonalities, professors that typically mentor, you kind of know who to reach out to. So highly recommend it. It's not just limited to UW students. From that perspective, you can check out the website, see all the exciting research that's being done. And please, I cordially invite all of you to please come and check out the research that's being done.
If you'd like to share, what do you do outside of class, your hobbies, interests, etc., to help keep you balanced?
I run. And recently, UW Rec Pass is free to students right now. So I have taken up a couple different new little exercise hobbies. I tried to learn hip hop, dancing last week. I sucked at it, just being honest, but I was, I got moving. So, that's kind of what I do. And I also have an amazing little girl who just turned 6. So she keeps me pretty busy. She loves the outdoors. So I try to make it a point to make sure that we can go out and take a walk, get dirty, touch nature, get out of the house, put away our screens.
I'm also a runner. I jog briskly, but outside of school, I participate with Black and Marine Science. I'm a content creator. So if you want to see some dope content from some brown scientists, check us out. We've got a website, social media handles, YouTube, the whole nine. You can see me embarrass myself talking about intertidal zones. It's lovely. Other than that, I'm a chair for WIMS, which is Black Women in Ecology, Evolution, and Marine Sciences. So our goal is to promote community science, which is awesome because we get to hang out and do Skype with scientists with 6-year-olds, and they love all the things that we love, and we get to geek out together. So it's a really nice way to connect and just take a break from the rigor of all of the, how many times can you elucidate something that you can't, and just hang out with the fun part of why we do what we're doing.
Yeah, for me, I also very much enjoy doing outreach work. I think I know this is all school that we're talking about right now, but oftentimes I don't consider things like this necessarily related to school because I often get to connect with like, freshmen and sophomore students when we do like one-on-one type things. And I really enjoy doing stuff like that. So I do a couple of other outreach stuff, but if we're going like way outside of school, then I'm generally try to be pretty active. I mean, the pandemic has kind of made that a little hard because one of the things that I really like to do is play basketball at the gym that we have over here. Just kind of, pull up with some friends and then just like play 5-on-5 with some random people or whatever. And me and Nahom actually were on an intramural team last year. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, things like that. I like to ride my longboard around every now and then. Just active stuff like that is usually where I'm at.
For everything UW, does that extend to the Bethel and Tacoma campuses as well?
I think it depends is the answer. For a lot of the classes, you can often take them at other campuses, but that's a lot easier right now when we have things online. You can still do that when things are offline, but typically you would only like take classes at one place at a time. And you do have like a home campus where you take most of your classes. But if you want to do like one quarter somewhere else, that's possible.
So it's, I guess the bigger question is, so LSAM, it's at the other campuses as well, or is it just a UW Seattle chapter?
Yeah, so in that respect, if there was, to my knowledge, there is not an LSAMP center at the UW Tacoma and Bothell campuses, but if those students were to be on the UW Seattle campus, they would be more than welcomed into the LSAMP center and to use the LSAMP resources at our campus.
Okay, thank you.